The pervasiveness of digital experiences in our lives is such that we don't compartmentalize our expectations anymore. We just expect our interactions with enterprises, even governments, to be frictionless. So as digital transformation takes hold in industries such as healthcare, financial services, telecom and media, and even larger constructs such as government, the experiences that need to be transformed and managed are much more complex compared to a traditional, more unidimensional B2C retail environment. It's not just about prettying up the front end. For instance, in the insurance industry, we're talking about transforming the digital experience for payers, providers, agents, and multiple other stakeholders.
What I'd really like to do is drive home the point back that the imperative is obvious to many organizations, but not all. But the good news is the majority are starting to recognize it. So, for example, one analyst says that 85% of enterprise decision makers say they have a time frame of just 2 years to make significant inroads into digital transformation, or they'll fall behind. They'll fall behind their competitors, and that will impact them financially. Now, another study said that 2/3 of global CEOs are going to start focusing on digital strategies to improve customer experience by the end of this year, 2019. So the good news is clearly companies are recognizing the need to focus on creating these easily accessible digital solutions, primarily externally for their customers, but also, and I would argue as importantly, for their employees, because those employees and business partners really are an extension and part of the value chain and really can become a further enabler of delivering what I'll term an exceptional customer experience.
For anyone that's seen that movie Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, there's a famous quote in there, if you build it, he will come. Right, and that's about the baseball field and attracting his father to come out there. Now, that same cannot be said about digital experience solutions, right? Whether those are on a web browser, mobile, tablet, et cetera, across those various audiences, B2B, B2C, B2E, right? Because the expectations vary tremendously. For example, in a B2B scenario, it's all about accessing business components. That's what's critical, allowing you to complete a business transaction, get access to your business content. Maybe it's a price book. It's all about relevant business contextual content and process engagement, right? Whereas if you're looking at B2E, it's a different set of complexities and factors that are driving that. Right, that's usually more about employee engagement, making things more efficient, helping employees to do their jobs more efficiently, and engaging in the cultural aspects of the organization. And all those drive a completely different, set of expectations and certainly complexities when you are developing those solutions. But I think perhaps where we see the most complexity is in the B2C space. By 2020, we think that customer experience is going to overtake price and product as the key brand differentiator. Now, that's how critical it is going to be for organizations to understand the complexities that are involved here, ensure they develop a dynamic, engaging, and relevant experience.
So we support sites across the B2B, B2C, and B2E spectrum, so we know that we have to continually improve. When somebody's here at work, their expectation of how our site is really shaped not by comparing other companies' intranets, it's by what they have when they do a financial transaction at home or if they're purchasing something at home. So that's our benchmark.
If you recognize the imperative, now you have to think about and plan for how will you take action, right? And for many enterprises, I would argue that it's not as simple a task as you might imagine. So if you think about financial services and think about banking and insurance as two, it's going to involve likely accessing sometimes decades old custom and closed applications and business processes. It can be the same in healthcare and certainly for governments, and I would argue governments at all levels, right? But we have recognized that there is immense value in bringing to these digital experiences those significant actions like banking transactions. In healthcare, think about access for things like appointment scheduling to even consumer-like actions like medical procedure provider shopping, right? And you want to make sure that you get that delivered directly to the intended audience. So it's not only accessing the back-end applications, but now you've got to do it in what I would describe a role-based or a personalized fashion. So think about all that, but then start to ask yourself other questions. Is it secure? Because that's critically important for many risk-adverse entities in various industries. Is it performant for near real-time responses? Because as consumers, that's an expectation. Does it meet scale, right, for unexpected peak loads of access? If you think about being a healthcare insurance provider, there are enrollment periods where you're going to have much more traffic into the system and onto the experience as you will have at other times of the year. Is it always on, right? Because this actually becomes part of the way you run your business. You really can't afford for it not to be operable, right? Is it available via all the pertinent digital touch points? And this is critically important because we know the primary touch points are web and mobile today, but think about the explosion of digital touch points that are here now and will continue to come. You need a platform and you need a solution to make sure you can get it across all those. Then what about those different users and groups? How are you going to manage and personalize that experience? So if you start to think about all of that, think about the different applications that you need to push out to customers, make sure that it's visually engaging with persuasive content. There's a lot to consider, right? So you've got to think all that through, you've got to model it, you've got to deliver it, but then you're not done. The reason we call this a journey is because there is no end, right? The journey will continue. So the complexity is absolutely there. And the moment you understand that and then start to consider how you can map business outcomes against it, then you can be more successful.